switched it up to the wheels off of my other crawler. These are just Trail aluminum wheels, JConcepts Ruptures with Antifoams, and I have some of the stiffening rods in the front. So I feel like these are actually lighter than the wheels I just took off with the Injora silicone inserts. I don't know the exact weight, but they do feel lighter. So let's just see what the difference is. It is definitely wider. It's definitely wider. These have less of an offset, so it might make this more difficult just because of the track width. I mean, I could already see, like, you know, like I mean, there's no comparison. I was thinking those stock tires. Look at this. Look at this. Straight shot up. Textbook. I mean, that's the difference. Look how soft these are. These are ridiculously soft. So with the Antifoams, the Ruptures are a really tall tire. With the Antifoams, there's a good amount of space around it. So what I did was I took a mesh hair bun maker donut thingy off Amazon and just did a layer of that, almost like a web wrap around the Antifoam, and they just work so well. I mean, listen. That's the difference. It's insane how good these are. Might as well try coming down this just to see if there's any disadvantage to the really soft Antifoams. Yeah, so I am running the stock tires with the Green Injora silicone inserts. So they are pretty much the softest of the Injora inserts. And they work really great with the stock tires, but I just wanted to do this video with the split screen here just so you could see the difference of switching out to, like, a, you know, for lack of a better term, a higher end tire, aftermarket tire with some 3D printed inserts. And, you know, even though the stocks do pretty well, you can definitely see differences throughout this video of just how much better it is with the Ruptures. Yeah, so I didn't have as much time to run this after I switched the wheels and tires, so I didn't do everything line for line. So you'll see there's a couple little bonus lines in here. And honestly, like, the Ruptures were working so great, I just started trying things that I wasn't even sure were doable, and, you know, I was definitely impressed. So yeah, my overall takeaway is if you throw some real, whatever tires work best for your terrain. Like for me, like JConcepts Greens are, you know, pretty much the best compound around here, and, you know, the Ruptures, Tusk, they're all good. But for me, like, just this tire works so well that, you know, if you find a tire that works great in your area and get the right inserts in that tire, this truck is going to be, you know, really, really good performer. I'm going to have to do this as a separate video. I have so much footage already. I'm going to have to do this as a separate video with just testing the JConcepts and Antifoams on here. Just because I think I want to repeat a lot of these lines and see. All right, so you know, this line, you know, I had to bounce up like that before, but, you know, way less hoppy, I'd say, like this. Let's see if I can slow crawl this. Settle down, settle down. Dirt on the tires. Yeah, so we got a little out of sequence there just because the stock tires struggled a little bit on that, but they eventually made it. And you'll see, this is a tricky spot here. Every once in a while I run into a group of guys crawling up here, and there's always guys working on this particular spot. There's like 2 climbs in a row, and they're just really kind of like chunky and off camber, and there's cracks in the rocks and stuff, and it's really hard to get it just right. It's really hard to like slow crawl it. You do have to use a little bit of momentum and kind of bounce your way up just to position your tires right. And both the stock tires and the Ruptures were able to get it. It was definitely just less work. I spent way more time with the stock tires on this. JConcepts Ruptures, Antifoams. Gonna repeat the wall here and see if we get different results. I was able to make it last time, but definitely not easy. This is probably going to require a little bit of a different line. Kind of need the rear. There we go. Okay, so this is an obstacle I call the wall. It's just a huge kind of rock slab face, really craggy, off camber, super difficult. And I'm able to make it with the stock tires. You could already see the Ruptures have an advantage here. And a lot of slipping going on with the stock tires. Like I said, I was able to make it, but I think when I was editing this video, it was about 5.5 minutes with the stock tires, just kind of slipping and sliding off and falling over. And I eventually found a line that worked, but you can see on the left, this is the first shot with the Ruptures, and it just goes right up it. And this is one of the most difficult climbs in this area. And it just went right up it first shot, and it's done. You know, the stock tires, I was able to do it, but I spent 5.5 minutes, you know, and I had to take it like a slightly different line. You see here, just descending. This is the path back down from the top of that previous climb. And even though the 3D printed are very soft initially, that's the nice thing with the 3D printed over the silicone is the way they're printed makes a huge difference in terms of how much of like a dual stage feel that they have. So you get that real soft initial, but then they're really supportive for descending, you know, things like this. Okay, so this is, I pretty much just turned around the bottom and climbed right back up that little descent that I just did. Super tricky. I've spent way too much time in this one spot with other rigs and tires that weren't so great, and it's really tough because you get into these spots where for one thing, there's like that V-notch in there, so it wants to kind of slide you left or right, and then you end up in spots where your front and rear wheels are trying to climb a little ledge at the exact same time, and it just gets really difficult. And I was able to get it with the stocks, but again, first shot with the Ruptures, I mean, barely any slipping, and just huge difference. Here's another little bonus line. I did try to run this with the stock tires. I actually did it both. You see that little pile of rocks I'm about to get into there? That wasn't there initially, and I just don't see like a 10th scale making this climb without those rocks in place. I've done it with my Rift crawler, but that has a much bigger wheelbase, so I didn't try adding the rocks when I was running the stock tire, so this is just kind of a little bonus line I did with the Ruptures on here, but I was actually amazed that it was able to pull this. It's still tricky, even with those rocks there. It's really, really difficult spot. Yeah, just kind of walks right through it for the most part. Okay, so this obstacle here, really tough. If you watch my previous video, I talk about it a little bit. I've again spent way too much time on this one spot. I could spend half an hour here with some rigs just trying to get this, because it's like one of those spots you know is doable. I've done it with my 4-wheel steer Capra, but the 4-wheel steer is the key to that. That would make it this easier. But honestly, this truck, even with the stock tires, makes it much quicker and much easier than my 4-wheel steer Capra that has a lot of money put into it. So there's something to be said for, you know, more of a low CG style rig over something like the Capra. But you could see like the stock tires, almost the advantage here, I think, is the width of the truck. On the left here, the wheels with the Ruptures do have a little bit more negative offset, so it is a little bit wider, and it takes a little bit to get it in position, but then you'll see it kind of catches up you know, the overall grip on those tires really just gives it an advantage in certain areas. But again, the track width change, and it's not a huge difference. You're talking a couple millimeters, but that's all it takes in a section like this. It's just if your wheel at the top of that off camber is a little bit higher, it could be enough to tip you. So it doesn't take much in sections like that, and that's really where like the setup and design and mods you do to a vehicle really start to shine, is like at that extreme situation where you're like a millimeter away from being offline and tipping over. So, and you see here that, you know, it's still a difficult climb even with the Ruptures. You know, you can't do things that are vertical, not with this rig anyway. And I was able to I kind of just steered up left and purposefully put it into, you know, one of the hardest sections here just to see what it could do. And you'll see I do make it with the Ruptures. The stock tires, I was not able to do this exact same line. I had to eventually kind of just veer to the right a little bit and just take a slightly less steep line. So that video will cut out at some point, but I do make it. The stock tires did make this whole climb. I just had to take a slightly easier spot.
This was not.
Okay, final little obstacle here for the back-to-back challenge, and it's not even a contest. I mean, this is a very steep climb, and you get all these little kind of divots and off-camber spots. It's way more difficult than it looks. And first shot with the Ruptures. Was never able to make it with the stock tires. Just gets to a point where slides too much and the truck starts drifting left and right, and just could not get this last obstacle. I tried, I don't know, maybe 10-15 minutes trying to bounce it up, trying to get just to land in the right position where I could continue on, and just was not going to get it. And you can see the Ruptures are already way at the top, and they're, you know, tackling another little nasty spot up there. So again, you know, when you push it to the limits is when you really start to notice the differences.
Never attempted anything here.
So some additional little footage here. I decided to push ahead with the Ruptures here and try something that I had never really even looked at before. This is at the top of that climb, and once you do that little traversing over that little narrow spot, this ended up being a really cool line, and just there was no way that I was going to get this with the stock tires. So I just kind of worked at it for a little bit and was able to kind of get something out of this, and it was really cool, really rewarding spot here, because again, I had never even looked at this before, and I was able to get it. So I'm curious if you guys, like, what other tires you've tried on your Ascent or your Ascent Fusion, and just what you guys like, because it's interesting to see like people all over the country or different parts of the world have like their tire that works for them. I've found that the Rupture for this area of New Jersey, northern New Jersey, I have a lot of different spots I go to with different types of rock, and these just work equally well pretty much everywhere. Even when I did a comp in the rain with these tires, and they hooked up incredibly well. So super impressive. I'm a big fan of the JConcepts greens, and I want to try a couple of other different. I want to try the megalithics at some point. It's frustrating that stupid Sorka rules have banned these tires from competition if you're going to a Sorka, you know, competition. But I don't care that much. There aren't too many comps in this area, unfortunately. I would do it more if there were. But curious to know what your favorite tires are in your area, or if you've tried modifying the stock tires. That's another option too. I know like Traxxas Canyon Trails for me in this area work incredibly well when they're modified. But stock, they're okay. But once you modify them, which is making me wonder if these stock tires would actually be that much better. If you snip out some of the lugs or sipe them, or just do a couple other different mods to kind of soften them up. But you can see there how much squish, like just the perfect amount of squish these 3D printed inserts are getting. The Three Brothers Antifoams are definitely the best 3D printed that I've tried. And this, I'm going to come back to this spot. This was a cool little, really tricky line. I wasn't able to get it. Actually, I was able to get it once, and I could not repeat it on video. So, you know, that goes. But thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next video. Later.